Hey, I'm Hunt, and this is Hunt on LSU, your channel for LSU Fighting Tiger football talk. Enjoy the video. We want you to leave a comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe right below the video. Enjoy. When we talk about this LSU team, what have been the dominant storylines? Oh, they can't stop anybody on defense. Stink on defense, bad on defense. That's a storyline. Jaden Daniels should be in the Heisman conversation. Absolutely, I think that's been a storyline. Look at the breakout and emergence of Brian Thomas next to Malik Neighbors. That is as good a 1-2 as at wide receiver as anybody in the SEC has. I think that's a reasonable take to have. Logan Diggs is breaking out. That's fantastic, looking really good. I think that's a reasonable take to have. I think all of those talking points have been spoken to appropriately. The defense has not been very good. Jaden Daniels has played at a Heisman level. You do have great wide receivers and a good running back, and all that makes a lot of sense to talk about. But one thing that I don't think has been talked about just enough, and I did yesterday, but I want to go a little bit deeper into the entirety of the situation here today, is LSU's offensive line. Big hat tip to LSU's offensive line, quite frankly. I think they have been excellent. If you take this back 2 years, LSU hires Brad Davis in the late summer and tosses him into a situation that was just awful. You were short on numbers. You were short on talent. It was a really rough spot for Brad Davis to come into in 2021. And, I mean, late in that year, Garrett Dellinger was your starting left tackle as a true freshman. I don't know if anybody remembers that. I did not remember that at all. I was going through doing research on this year's line and going through some of the, and I didn't realize he played left tackle. Yep, started right there. Against Arkansas, against Mississippi State. There he was. Not exactly ideal. But over time, Brad Davis has gone to work, put in some work recruiting, and you have a new head coach come in that has a profile that he wants to recruit to on the offensive line. And one of the things that we said when Brian Kelly got this job was, well, I don't know how well he can recruit Louisiana. I don't know if he's going to be a great fit here. I don't know if he's going to win championships at LSU. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't on all those things. But what I do know is that he's got a track record of offensive line recruiting and development that would lend itself to a lot of success here at LSU. And now all of a sudden you look back 2 years into this job and you look at the offensive line they've put together. And yes, you had to take some of your lumps early last year. You threw Will Campbell in there at left tackle. Here's Jared Verse from Florida State. Good luck, kid. Didn't go great. You decided after one game, well, we're going to go with a freshman at right tackle too. And you put him out there. And you said we wanted to put Garrett Dellinger in there at center. That's where he started against Florida State last year. Nah, we'll put Charles Turner back in there. Dellinger can help us one way or not. And you kind of mixed and matched and figured it out. And you got better on the offensive line as time goes on. They were overmatched against Florida State last year in the opener. And by the end of the season, they were pretty good up front on the offensive line. So you looked at this team, you're like, okay, you got Will Campbell back and you got Emory Jones back. That's a pretty good place to start with your bookends. And we've got Miles Frazier back, who played well last year. And we've got Charles Turner back in the middle of the offensive line, and that should be a really nice piece for us. And we'll go with Garrett Dellinger at right guard. And Dellinger has started, he started at center. I told you he started at left tackle. Last year in the second game, he started against Southern at left guard. Like he had started 10 games in his career coming in at 3 different positions on the offensive line for LSU. So it wasn't as if he was some totally unproven commodity. And you felt like that was going to be a rock-solid piece to your offense. And quite frankly, they were disappointing in game one. Your running backs couldn't do anything offensively. The 2 plays that stand out are the 2 short yardage fourth downs, where 1, you tried a running play and got stacked up, and 2, you tried a little play action pass play and you got sacked. And you got overwhelmed at the line of scrimmage in both situations. And so you look up and you ran for 113 yards against Florida State, but most of that was Jaden Daniels running all over the place. And you gave up pressures to Jaden Daniels in that game. And in the second half, you really got dusted. And that was a surprising development to me, to sit there and watch that offensive line with that much returning experience and talent, quite frankly, to go out there against Florida State and just get beat. And what was my entire message coming out the next week against Grambling? Nothing that concerned me against Florida State can be fixed in my eyes, the fans' eyes, the analyst's eyes, who's not at practice and not understanding what the game plan is and just watching results on the field. None of that's going to get fixed against Grambling. So whoop-de-doo, you ran for 302 yards against Grambling. I don't care. It's a different level of football. Prove it when the lights come on again. And they ran it pretty well against Mississippi State. Ran for 163 yards and 3 touchdowns in that game. And none of it was on chunk plays. Your longest run against Mississippi State was only 23 yards. And then against Arkansas, you really leaned on them. And Diggs really got going. And you ran it great. And at Ole Miss, you ran it for 223 yards and 3 scores. And then for the first time all year, your running game was so dependable that the game plan against Missouri was to run the ball. Yeah, we got Daniels, and he's throwing it awesome. And yeah, we got Thomas out there. We got Neighbors out there. We got Mason Taylor out there. All these guys that can make plays. We're running the ball because we can. I don't care that Missouri's the number 1 run defense in the Southeastern Conference. The only team they played with the pulse is Kansas State, and they ran it on them. We're going to run it. And LSU ran it 43 times for 274 yards in that game and a pair of scores. Physical running game. A lot of it's zone, and some of it's read option, but it's physical, and it's downhill, and they're excelling. And guess what? You've developed a little depth. You've got a couple of true freshmen who have logged SEC snaps in huge spots for you. Lance Hurd has had his ups and downs. We saw DJ Chester in there, made some really good plays at center, and also got beat on a play, ended up being a touchdown. Brian Kelly talked about it yesterday. But you've got some depth coming up behind your front-end talent. And yeah, we'll see what Charles Turner and Garrett Dillon try to do. Miles Frazier move on. But you've got Jones and Campbell back. You've got Hurd and Chester that you feel really good about in a younger class. And you're starting to see this depth develop. So Brian Kelly yesterday kind of wanted to talk about what his offensive line has meant to this offense.
You guys have heard this enough from me, is that we want to be equally as efficient running the football as we are throwing the football. And if you want to play too deep and you want to play soft and you really want to try to keep the ball in front of you, you better be able to run the football. That was in a large degree what was happening on Saturday, is that they were trying to keep from giving up the big play, and so it gave us some favorable looks in terms of running the football. And in particular, it gave us the opportunity to run Daniels as well. So again, I think they're a huge part of what we're doing, both in the run game and giving Jaden the opportunity to get the ball downfield.
And with that depth that you've created, that you've already tapped into a little bit on this team, you've got a committed class that includes Ethan Callaway, a 6'7", 300-pound, 4-star tackle that LSU's got out of North Carolina. You've got Ori Williams, a 6'7", 300-pound physical presence that ESPN's got 4-star rating, 24/7 on 3 have 3-star rating, but comes in that profile of the big, long, physical offensive lineman. You got Kyrie Lee from John Ehret, who's 6'5", 307, that you've got in this class that is committed to you. You've got Joseph Cryer, who they've got from Natchitoches Central, who's 6'4", 290. They're all in that same mold, same type build, long, lean, and able to grow into their frames. And you hope that you don't have to continue to play Will Campbell as a freshman, and Emory Jones as a freshman, and Lance Hurd as a freshman, and DJ Chester as a freshman. They're being asked to, but you hope that's not the case moving forward. But you just have to like the numbers that they've got up there and the talent level and the fact that just what Brian Kelly said in his introductory press conference, there's a profile here. We'll commit to it. We'll recruit to it, and we'll churn out really good offensive linemen. And right now, they're doing it. And my take on this offense, really, all of August was, I think they're pretty good at wide receiver. I think the quarterback's pretty good. They block, they're going to be a handful. Well, they didn't block against Florida State, and they got overwhelmed in the second half. Since that time, they've blocked. They've been a handful. And I don't expect this to slow down anytime soon. They got to develop a new quarterback for next year. Likely Garrett Nussmeier, but that's a guy that's going to have to to develop and improve. You're going to lose Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas very likely after this year. You're going to have to restock those shelves. You got a bajillion running backs, and we'll see what comes of that situation. But if the foundation of next year's offense is in this offensive line that you've recruited to and developed and has these pillars on the back end, and you feel like Chester slides in there at center, and all of a sudden it's a nice place to start your offense, where this year that was kind of the finishing piece when we were analyzing things. Programs are cyclical, and now it's more like team building, and you got to go get this guy here or there, and wouldn't surprise me at all if they went into the transfer portal and grabbed another offensive lineman like they did this year going to the ACC. But it's something we projected would be the case, and now looking at 2 years later with Brian Kelly, the offensive line is looking excellent, and that's fantastic news because you've got a head coach that's done this for a long time and an offensive line coach that we think is a great one as well. So I like talking about the offensive line. They're doing a good job. Hopefully they do a good job against a good Auburn defensive front coming up on Saturday night. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.